The ship touched down on Velketh Prime just as the twin suns began their descent. Ambassador Han Bora watched through the viewport as purple twilight spread across the jungle canopy. This world never saw full darkness or full light. It existed in permanent dusk, which seemed fitting for a negotiation that could go either way. Ambassador, we're cleared to disembark, Officer Yoon Daeho said from behind her. He had been her security detail for 3 years now, and she trusted him completely. Bora gathered her documents and straightened her diplomatic uniform. How do I look? Professional, Daeho said with a slight smile. Maybe too serious. Good, the Velketh respects seriousness. She headed toward the exit ramp. The air outside hit her like a warm blanket. Thick, heavy, full of unfamiliar scents that her nose tried to categorize and failed. The diplomatic compound spread before them, a mix of human prefab buildings and Velketh stone structures that seemed to grow from the earth itself. A delegation waited at the landing pad. Bora recognized Chieftain Ralcor immediately. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, covered in rust-colored fur with black stripes. His eyes were golden and sharp, very sharp. They tracked her movement as she descended the ramp. Behind him stood several other Velketh warriors and 3 small figures that had to be cubs. One of them, a young female with bright, curious eyes, stared at Bora without fear. Chieftain Ralcor, Bora said, stopping at a respectful distance. She did not bow. The briefing materials said the Velketh saw bowing as submission. Thank you for welcoming us to your world. Ralcor's ears twitched. Ambassador Han Bora, we have heard many things about your people. I hope some of them were good. Some were. His tail swished behind him. Others were concerning. Bora kept her expression neutral. She knew what he meant. The rumors had spread across the galaxy faster than humanity could correct them. Deathworlders. Unkillable. Without fear. Without mercy. Most of it was nonsense, but some species believed it anyway. I hope our actions during these talks will speak louder than rumors, she said. Ralcor studied her for a long moment. Then he made a gesture with his clawed hand. Come, we have prepared quarters for you and your team. Tomorrow we begin discussions. The tour of the compound took an hour. The Velketh had built everything to their scale, which meant Bora had to look up constantly. Their architecture favored open spaces and high ceilings. Hunting people, she thought. They liked to see everything around them. Her quarters were comfortable. A large room with a desk, a sleeping area, and a wall of windows that looked out over the jungle. Very little privacy, but that was probably intentional. The Velketh wanted to see what she did. I'll be next door, Daeho said, checking the security locks. Dr. Lee and the rest of the team are in the adjacent building. Good. Tell everyone to settle in and rest. Tomorrow will be difficult. After Daeho left, Bora sat at her desk and pulled out her tablet. The real work began now. She had to review every detail of the proposed treaty, anticipate every objection, prepare responses for every possible concern. The Velketh were considering joining the Galactic Council, and humanity had been chosen to sponsor them. It was an honor. It was also a test. If this failed, it would prove that humans could not be trusted with diplomatic responsibilities. Other species were watching. Hours passed. The twilight outside darkened to deep purple, then lightened again as the suns began their slow rise. Bora barely noticed. She filled page after page with notes, cross-references, and contingency plans. A knock at her door made her look up. Daeho entered carrying a tray. Dinner, Ambassador. You missed the evening meal. Bora glanced at the time display and was surprised to see it was late. Just leave it on the desk. I'll eat in a moment. Daeho set the tray down but did not leave. You said that last time. I will. I promise. I just need to finish this section. He sighed but left without further argument. Bora meant to eat. She really did. But then she found a discrepancy in the trade agreement language, and that led to checking the original Velketh translation. And suddenly food was the last thing on her mind. Outside her window, something moved in the shadows. Bora did not see it, focused as she was on her work. But young Silrath saw her clearly. The cub had wandered away from her sleeping family, drawn by curiosity about the strange human visitors. She watched the human female sitting at the bright tablet, surrounded by papers. There was food on the desk. Good food that smelled fresh. But the human did not touch it, not once, not even to sniff it the way any sensible predator would. Silrath tilted her head, confused. Among her people, refusing food was a sign of illness. Injured hunters sometimes lost their appetite before they died. Was the human sick? She did not look sick. She looked focused, alert. But something was clearly wrong if she would not eat. The cub watched for another hour until her mother's call drew her away. The food on the human's desk remained untouched. Morning came with the sun's gentle rise from deep purple to lighter violet. Bora stood from her desk, stretched, and realized she had worked through the entire night. The food tray sat where Deho had left it, cold and forgotten. She should eat something. But there was no time. The first negotiation session started in 30 minutes, and she needed to review her notes one more time. Food could wait. Bora changed into a fresh uniform, splashed water on her face, and gathered her materials. When she stepped outside, Deho was waiting with a concerned expression. "Did you sleep at all?" "I'll sleep later." "How do I look?" "Tired." "I'll take that as ready." She started walking toward the meeting hall. The negotiation chamber was an impressive space. A large circular room with a domed ceiling that let in natural light. The Velketh delegation sat on one side, humans on the other. Ralcor occupied the central position with his advisors flanking him. Bora took her seat and activated her tablet. "Shall we begin?" The first hours went well. They discussed basic framework, established protocols for communication, and agreed on several minor points. Bora was sharp despite her lack of sleep. Every question had an answer. Every concern had a response. She felt the familiar rush of a negotiation going smoothly. Then Ralcor raised his hand. "It is time for the midday meal." Bora checked the time. They had been working for 6 hours. "If it pleases the chieftain, I believe we are making excellent progress. Perhaps we could continue for another hour." The Velketh delegation exchanged looks. Ralcor's ears flattened slightly. "You wish to skip the meal?" "Just to maintain our momentum." "We can eat afterward." More looks between the Velketh. Ralcor's tail moved in a way Bora could not interpret. "Very well. 1 more hour." But Bora noticed the change in atmosphere. Something had shifted. The Velketh seemed less engaged, more watchful. She pressed forward anyway, determined to make the most of the extra time. Outside the chamber, young Silrath listened at the door. She had heard the human refuse food again. Twice now. Once last night and now during the day. The cub's worry grew. Something was very wrong with the human female. She ran to find her father, but he was still in the meeting. So Silrath made a decision. If the human would not eat, maybe she was too proud to ask. Maybe she could not hunt in this unfamiliar place. Among the Velketh, the strong protected the weak. If no adult would help the dying human, then Silrath would do it herself. She gathered 2 other cubs and explained her plan. They would hunt for the human. They would leave food where she could find it. Maybe then she would eat. Maybe then she would not die. The cubs did not understand that they had just misread everything about humanity. They did not know that for humans, food was often secondary to purpose. They only knew what their instincts told them. A predator who will not eat is a predator who is dying. And children, whether human or Velketh, try to save those they think need saving. The negotiations continued for 3 more hours before Ralcor called an end to the session. Bora wanted to keep going, but she could read the exhaustion in the Velketh delegation. They needed rest even if she did not. "We will resume tomorrow morning," Ralcor said, standing. His movements were stiff, formal. "Please enjoy the evening meal in the common hall. My people wish to know their potential allies better." It was not really an invitation. Bora understood that. It was a test. She nodded. "We would be honored." The common hall was massive, with tables arranged in a circle around a central fire pit. The Velketh believed in eating together, sharing food as a sign of trust and community. Bora sat with Deho and Dr. Lee Heejin, the team's xenobiologist. Platters of food arrived. Meat, mostly. Cooked rare, still steaming. The Velketh tore into it with enthusiasm, their sharp teeth making quick work of the meal. Bora took a small portion and picked at it while mentally reviewing the day's discussions. "You need to eat more than that," Heejin whispered beside her. "They're watching." Bora glanced up and realized it was true. Several Velketh were observing the human table with interest. She forced herself to take a larger bite and chew slowly. The meat was actually quite good, but her mind was elsewhere. There was a clause in Section 7 that troubled her. If they could revise the wording. "Ambassador," Deho said quietly, Focus on the meal. She nodded and tried. But halfway through, an advisor approached Ralcor with a document, and Bora's attention shifted immediately. She watched their body language, trying to read the conversation. Were they discussing the negotiations? Was there a problem she needed to address? Her food grew cold on her plate. That night, Bora returned to her quarters with a full stomach but an uneasy mind. Something had been off during dinner. The Velkith had been too quiet, too watchful. She needed to understand what was bothering them. She worked late again, this time researching Velkith cultural customs around meals and hospitality. Deho brought her a late-night snack, which she accepted with a distracted thank you. The food sat untouched while she read. Outside her window, 3 small shadows moved through the darkness. Silrath led her 2 friends toward the jungle edge. They were good hunters even as cubs, silent, patient. They knew where the tree wings nested. The hunt took an hour. When they returned, they carried a fresh kill between them. A plump tree wing, its colorful feathers still bright. Silrath had made the killing strike herself, proud and clean. They approached the humans' building carefully. Through the window they could see her still awake, still working, still not eating. The snack Deho had brought remained on the corner of her desk, forgotten. "She is very sick," one of the other cubs whispered. "We have to help her," Silrath said firmly. She placed the tree wing carefully outside the human's door, arranged it properly with respect. Among her people, this was how you cared for a warrior too injured to hunt. You brought them food. You showed them they were not forgotten. The cubs slipped away before anyone could see them. Morning came with its usual purple light. Bora had finally fallen asleep at her desk around 3 in the morning. She woke with a stiff neck and papers stuck to her face. Not her best moment. She stood, stretched, and opened her door to head for the shower facility. Something lay on the ground outside. She looked down and froze. It was a dead bird. Well, not exactly a bird. It had 6 wings and a tail like a fan, but it was definitely dead and definitely placed there intentionally. The arrangement was too careful to be accidental. Bora stared at it for a long moment. Was this a threat? A warning? Some kind of cultural message she was supposed to understand? She carefully picked it up and carried it to Hyejin's quarters. The xenobiologist was still in her sleeping clothes when she answered the door. "Ambassador? It's early. Look at this." Bora held up the creature. "I found it outside my door." Hyejin's eyes went wide. She reached out and examined it carefully. "This is a tree wing. Local prey species. Killed cleanly recently, maybe last night." She looked up at Bora. "Someone left you food." "Why would someone leave me food?" "I don't know. But this is deliberate. See how it's arranged? The wings are folded properly. The neck is positioned for easy eating. This is how the Velkith prepare kills for consumption." Bora felt a headache forming. "I don't understand. Is this an insult? A challenge? I don't think so. Let me research this." Hyejin took the tree wing. "Go get ready for today's session. I'll figure out what this means." The second day of negotiations started poorly. Ralcor seemed distant, almost cold. His advisors whispered among themselves. The atmosphere in the chamber felt tense in a way it had not been before. Bora tried to focus on the agenda. They needed to discuss resource-sharing agreements, but every proposal she made was met with lukewarm responses. Something was definitely wrong. Mid-morning, Ralcor interrupted her presentation. "Ambassador Han, are you well?" The question caught her off guard. "Yes, Chieftain. I'm fine. Why do you ask? You seem focused, very focused. My people notice you do not eat much." So that was it. The meal issue again. Bora chose her words carefully. "I apologize if I have given offense. Among humans, it is common to work through meals when engaged in important tasks. I meant no disrespect to Velkith hospitality." Ralcor's tail swished. "You choose not to eat?" "I eat when I need to. Right now, these negotiations are more important." The entire Velkith delegation went silent. Ralcor leaned forward in his seat. "You believe these talks are more important than eating?" "Of course. We can eat any time. This opportunity is unique, more silence." The Velkith exchanged looks that Bora could not interpret. Finally, Ralcor sat back. "I see. Perhaps we should take a break. My people need to discuss something." The human delegation filed out. In the hallway, Deho pulled Bora aside. "What just happened in there?" "I'm not sure, but I think I said something wrong." Hyejin joined them, her tablet in hand. "I found something about the tree wing. In Velketh culture, leaving prepared food for someone is what you do for injured warriors. It's a sign of respect and care. Bora's headache intensified. Why would anyone think I'm injured? I don't know, but there was another tree wing outside your door this morning, and one outside the human quarters building. Someone is leaving you food regularly. Who? I'm trying to find out. Inside the negotiation chamber, Ralcor paced before his advisors. She said the talks are more important than eating, more important than survival needs. One of his advisors, an elderly female named Cashet, spoke carefully. The rumors say humans can ignore pain and fear. Perhaps they can also ignore hunger. That is not natural, another advisor said. No creature can truly suppress the need to eat. Unless, Cashet said slowly, they are apex predators beyond our understanding. Unless the rumors are true. Ralcor's claws flexed unconsciously. He had fought many battles, faced many dangers. But the idea of a species that could simply choose to not eat, that could override the most basic survival instinct through pure will, that was terrifying in a way combat never was. What do we do? One of the younger advisors asked. We watch them, Ralcor said. We learn what we can. And we decide if we want allies who are not bound by the same rules as the rest of the galaxy. Outside, Silrath crouched near a window with her friends. She had seen the human carry away the tree wing that morning. Good. Maybe she had eaten it. Maybe she was feeling better. But through the window now, Silrath could see the humans talking in their hallway. The female looked tired, stressed, still not eating even though the suns were high. We have to keep bringing food, Silrath told her friends. She is getting worse. That afternoon, negotiations resumed but made little progress. Every topic seemed to hit an invisible wall. The Velketh were polite but distant. Bora could feel the opportunity slipping away and did not understand why. When the session ended, she returned to her quarters determined to solve this problem. She ordered dinner from Diho, ate 3 bites while reading, then forgot about it entirely. Her mind was consumed with trying to understand what had changed. She never noticed the 3 small figures watching from the jungle edge. She never saw them slip away to hunt again. She never knew they were terrified for her. These cubs who did not understand that humans could be simultaneously brilliant and completely oblivious to their own needs. The next morning, there were 4 dead tree wings outside her door. The pile was growing like offerings at a shrine, and Bora still had no idea what it meant or why it was happening, but she was about to find out. Bora stood in Ralcor's private office, surrounded by dead tree wings. Hyejin had collected them all, laid them out on a table. 7 in total, each one killed cleanly and prepared with care. Explain this to me, Ralcor said. His voice was not angry, but it carried weight, authority. Someone is leaving food for you. Every night. Who and why? I don't know, Chieftain. I was hoping you could tell me. Ralcor's ears flattened. This is not a human custom? No, we don't leave dead animals outside each other's doors. Then it is someone from my people. He turned to one of his warriors. Find out who is hunting near the human quarters. The warrior left quickly. Ralcor paced his office, tail swishing with agitation. In our culture, this is what we do for wounded warriors. Those who cannot hunt for themselves. It is an act of care. Bora felt something cold settle in her stomach. Someone thinks I'm wounded, or sick, or dying. Ralcor stopped pacing and fixed her with his golden eyes. Ambassador, you must understand. Among my people, a predator who will not eat is a predator approaching death. It is the first sign. The appetite goes, then the strength, then life itself. But I'm not dying. I'm just busy. You work through meals. You refuse food when it is offered. You told my delegation that these talks are more important than eating. His voice dropped lower. What kind of creature can prioritize anything over survival needs? The question hung in the air. Bora realized, perhaps for the first time, how her behavior must look to a species where eating was sacred, where sharing food meant community, and refusing it meant something was deeply wrong. Chieftain, I can assure you, the warrior returned with 3 small figures in tow. Cubs, Silrath in the lead, her head high despite obvious nervousness. 2 others followed, trying to be brave. Ralcor stared at his daughter. Silrath, you did this? Yes, father. The cub's voice was small but steady. The human is sick. She will not eat. Someone had to help her. She is not sick, but she does not eat. I watched her. 3 nights and she only takes small bites. She works and forgets the food entirely. That is what Elder Mortek did before he died. Ralcor's expression softened slightly. He knelt to his daughter's level. Child, the human is not like us, I know. She is smaller. That is why she needs more help. Bora felt something twist in her chest. This cub, this child, had been hunting for her, bringing her food because she thought a stranger was dying. It was one of the kindest things anyone had ever done. And Bora had not even noticed. She knelt as well, bringing herself to Silrath's eye level. Thank you, she said quietly. What you did was brave and good. You tried to help someone you thought was in trouble. Silrath's ears perked up. Then you will eat the tree wings? I'm afraid tree wings are not food for humans. But your kindness means very much to me. The cub looked confused. If you do not eat them, why do you not eat your own food? Officer Deho brings you meals. You do not touch them. Because I get focused on my work and I forget. How can you forget to eat? One of the other cubs asked. Eating is important. Bora did not have a good answer. How could she explain that human minds could become so absorbed in a task that basic needs faded into the background? That deadline pressure and diplomatic stakes could make her body's hunger signals seem unimportant? Ralcor stood. Take the cubs back to their dens, he told the warrior. Then to Silrath. We will speak of this later, daughter. You are not in trouble, but we must talk about when to help and when to ask for guidance first. After the cubs left, the office fell silent. Hyejin cleared her throat. Chieftain, if I may offer some scientific perspective. Humans have the ability to consciously delay gratification. We can feel hunger and choose to ignore it temporarily in favor of other priorities. Consciously? Ralcor's ears tilted. You mean this is a choice? Yes. Not an inability to feel hunger, but a decision to postpone eating. That is what frightens me, Ralcor said quietly. A predator who can choose to ignore hunger. What else can your species choose to ignore? Fear, pain, the urge to flee danger? Bora understood suddenly. This was not about meals. This had never been about meals. It was about what her behavior revealed about humanity, about what they were capable of, about how far they could push themselves beyond normal limits. Chieftain, may I speak plainly? Ralcor gestured for her to continue. Yes, humans can ignore hunger for a time. We can also ignore fear when necessary, push through pain, force ourselves to keep going when every instinct says to rest. But we are not machines. We are not invincible. We pay a price for every time we override our body's warnings. What price? Exhaustion, illness, damage that takes time to heal. If I keep skipping meals, I will eventually collapse. My body will force me to rest. We can delay consequences, but we cannot escape them. Then why do it at all? Ralcor moved to his window, looking out over the compound. Why ignore needs that will only demand payment later? Bora chose her words carefully. This was the moment that mattered. Because sometimes there are things more important than our immediate comfort. These negotiations, for example. If I eat every meal and sleep every night on schedule, we might lose hours of productive work. The treaty might take months instead of weeks, and people on both our worlds are depending on this to succeed. So you sacrifice yourself, temporarily, and by choice. That is the key, Chieftain. We choose when to push and when to rest. We choose what is worth the cost. Ralcor turned back to face her. The rumors say your people are Deathworlders, that you come from a planet so dangerous it made you into apex predators who cannot be killed. Is this true? Earth is dangerous compared to many worlds, but the rumors exaggerate. We can be killed. We can be hurt. We feel fear and pain like any species. But you can choose to act despite fear and pain? Yes. That is more frightening than invincibility, Ralcor said. An invincible enemy is predictable. They cannot be harmed, so they have nothing to lose. But an enemy who feels pain and acts anyway, who can consciously override every survival instinct, who can choose to sacrifice themselves for a goal, that enemy is unpredictable, dangerous in ways strength alone cannot match. Bora stood slowly. Is that what you see when you look at us? Enemies? I see potential allies who frighten me, Ralcor admitted. I see a species that might stand beside us or might crush us. And I cannot predict which because you are not bound by the same rules as the rest of the galaxy. Every species has the capacity for harm, Chieftain. But not every species can choose to ignore the instincts that keep most beings from doing their worst. Your people can override fear, hunger, pain, perhaps even mercy. How do I know you will choose to be our allies and not our conquerors? The question was fair. Brutal but fair. Bora had no easy answer. How do you prove trustworthiness to someone who sees your very nature as a threat? Outside, thunder rumbled across the jungle. The afternoon rains were coming. Bora watched water begin to patter against the windows. My daughter tried to save your life, Ralcor said after a long silence. She is a cub. She knows nothing of politics or species differences. She saw someone who seemed to be dying and tried to help. That is what good people do. Yes, Bora agreed. Do humans do the same? Do you help those who seem to be dying? Even if they are strangers? Even if it is dangerous? Bora thought of every disaster response team Earth had ever sent. Every medical mission to war zones. Every time humans had run toward danger instead of away from it because someone needed help. Yes, we do. Then perhaps, Ralcor said slowly, the question is not whether you can override your instincts. The question is what you choose to override them for. Protection or conquest, building or destroying. And you want proof of which one we choose? I need proof. My people need proof. The galaxy needs proof before we allow humanity deeper into our affairs. Bora nodded. That is fair. What kind of proof would satisfy you? I do not know yet. But Ambassador, I will tell you this. My daughter brought you food because she has a good heart. If your people are the same, if they help the weak rather than exploit them, then perhaps we can trust you. But I need to see it. Not in words or treaties, but in action. The rain fell harder now, drumming against the roof. Bora felt the weight of this moment. Everything depended on what she said next. Then let me propose something, Chieftain. You want to see what humans truly are? I will show you. Completely, honestly, I will open our history to your people. All of it. The wars, the genocides, the environmental destruction. The times we chose poorly and the consequences we faced. But also the rebuilding, the peace treaties, the choices to be better than we were. You can see everything and decide for yourself whether we are worthy allies. Ralcor's ears pricked forward. You would show us your worst moments? If I hide them, you will always wonder what I am concealing. Better you see the truth and make an informed choice. For the first time since the talks began, Ralcor smiled. It was not a happy expression. His teeth were very sharp, but there was respect in it. Very well, Ambassador. Show us who you really are. Then we will decide if we want to stand beside you. The next 3 days were the hardest of Bora's diplomatic career. Not because of difficult negotiations or political maneuvering, but because she had to watch the Velketh delegation learn about humanity's darkest chapters. She sat in the viewing room while they watched recordings of human wars. Not sanitized, not edited. The raw truth of what humans did to each other when fear and hatred took control. The bombings, the genocides, the systematic destruction of entire populations. Ralcor's face remained carefully neutral, but his claws dug into the armrests of his chair. Beside him, Cassette watched with her ears flat against her head. Hyejin had assembled the presentation carefully. Every major conflict in human history, every atrocity, every moment when humanity chose violence over peace. The Velketh saw it all, but they also saw what came after. The treaties, the tribunals, the slow, painful process of rebuilding. The choice, again and again, to try to be better. You have fought each other more than you have fought other species, Ralcor observed on the second day. Why? Because until recently we were alone, Bora said. We did not know other intelligent species existed, so we fought ourselves. Over resources, territory, ideology, religion, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for terrible ones. And now that you know you are not alone? We still disagree. We still argue, but most humans believe we should save our strength for exploration and cooperation, not internal conflict. Most humans, Ralcor repeated. Not all. No, not all. We are not a united species. We have different governments, different beliefs, different goals. We work together more than we did, but we are not a hive mind. Some humans would absolutely seek to conquer the galaxy if given the chance. The honesty seemed to surprise him. You admit this? Hiding it would be a lie. Yes, there are dangerous humans, ambitious ones, cruel ones, but they do not represent all of us, and we have systems to limit their power. Cassette leaned forward. Systems? What kind of systems? Bora gestured for Hyejin to bring up the next section. Laws, international agreements, organizations that monitor and restrict military expansion. We learned, slowly and painfully, that unchecked power leads to suffering. So we check it, we limit it, we hold each other accountable. And this works? Imperfectly, but better than not trying. The third day, Silrath appeared at the viewing room door with 2 other cubs. They had been forbidden from entering, but the young Velketh could not contain her curiosity. "Father, can we watch?" Ralcor looked ready to refuse, but Bora spoke first. "Let them stay if you think it is appropriate. They should know what they are asking for if our peoples become allies." Ralcor considered, then nodded. The cubs entered quietly and sat near the back. This day's presentation focused on environmental damage. The pollution, deforestation, species extinctions, images of Earth before and after industrial expansion, the price of rapid growth without understanding consequences. Silrath watched with wide eyes. "You hurt your own world?" "We did," Bora said. "We were careless. We thought resources were endless. We were wrong, but you stopped. We are trying to stop, trying to repair the damage. It will take generations to fix what we broke in decades." "Why did you not know better?" one of the other cubs asked. It was a child's question, innocent and piercing. Bora looked at the young Velketh. "Because knowing better requires making mistakes first. We did not understand what we were doing until it was almost too late. Then we had to choose, continue destroying our world or change everything about how we lived. And you chose to change? Most of us did. Some still resist. But yes, most humans chose to try to save our world rather than use it up." Ralcor spoke quietly. "You could have left, spread to other worlds and abandoned the damaged one. Some suggested that. But Earth is our home, our birthplace. We could not just leave it to die. And we realized that if we did not learn to care for one world, we would only damage others. So you stayed and faced the consequences of your actions. We did. We are still facing them." That evening, Bora walked through the compound gardens with Deho. The twilight jungle sounds surrounded them, peaceful and alien. "How do you think it is going?" Deho asked. "I have no idea. Either we have convinced them we are worth trusting, or we have convinced them to stay as far away from humanity as possible." "You are eating more," he observed. "I notice," Bora smiled slightly. 3 meals a day every day since the cubs started hunting for me. I could not let Silrath keep worrying. So a child succeeds where I failed. Children have a way of making you see yourself clearly. She looked at me with such concern, such genuine care for a stranger. It made me realize how I must appear. Someone who does not value their own well-being. Someone carelessly using themselves up. "Are you?" Bora stopped walking. "I was. But I am trying to be better." Ahead of them, 3 small figures darted across the path, the cubs playing some kind of chasing game. Silrath saw Bora and waved. Bora waved back. "She still watches you at meals," Deho said. "Making sure you eat, I know. It is sweet and a little embarrassing. It is children teaching adults how to care for themselves. Happens on every world, I think." The next morning, Ralcor called for a final meeting. Just him, his closest advisors, and the human delegation. The room felt heavy with anticipation. "We have seen your history," Ralcor began. "Your wars, your mistakes, your cruelty to each other and to your world. It is difficult to watch, disturbing even." Bora stayed silent, waiting. "But we have also seen your capacity to change, to recognize mistakes and try to correct them, to build systems that limit your worst impulses, to choose cooperation over conflict when the easy path would be violence. Humans are not peaceful by nature," Cashet added. "This is clear. But you have made yourselves peaceful by choice and effort. That is perhaps more valuable than natural peacefulness because it is conscious, maintained, protected." Ralcor stood and walked to the window. "My daughter asked me a question yesterday. She said, 'Father, are humans scary?' I told her yes, humans are scary. But she asked me another question. 'Are they good?' He turned back to face Bora. I could not answer her. Because I did not know. I saw your capacity for harm and your history of violence, but I did not know if you were good." "And now?" Bora asked. "Now I believe you are trying to be good. I believe you fail sometimes, as all species do, but I believe you keep trying, that you build systems to catch yourselves when you fall, that you learn from your mistakes more than you repeat them." Ralcor returned to his seat. "But I have a question for you, Ambassador. One that my daughter inspired. Ask. If you can choose to ignore hunger, if you can override fear and pain and all survival instincts, if you can push yourself beyond normal limits, Can you also choose not to hurt us? Can you choose to protect instead of conquer? Even when conquering would be easier. The entire room focused on Bora. This was the moment. Everything balanced on her answer. Yes, she said simply. We can choose that. We do choose that. Every day, humans make choices between self-interest and the greater good, between taking advantage and helping others, between easy cruelty and difficult kindness. We do not always choose well, but we have the capacity to choose, and that means we can commit to being your allies in more than just words. How can I trust this? Bora stood and walked to stand before Ralcor. Because we are showing you everything. Our worst moments. Our greatest shames. We are not hiding our capacity for harm. We are proving that we know what we are capable of, and we actively work to be better than our worst impulses. That is the only real trust I can offer. Not a promise that we are perfect, but a commitment to keep trying. Ralcor studied her for a long moment. Your species can override survival instincts. That makes you dangerous, but you choose what to override them for. That makes you potentially trustworthy. If you choose protection over conquest, if you choose building over destroying, then yes, I believe we can be allies. He extended his hand, claws retracted. Let us continue the negotiations. But this time let us eat together regularly. Let my people and yours learn each other properly. Not as potential enemies, but as future friends. Bora took his hand. The claws were very close to her skin, but they did not extend. Trust went both ways. Agreed, she said. Outside the chamber, 3 cubs listened at the door. They did not understand all the words, but they understood the tone. The adults were not fighting anymore. The human was staying. Silrath felt proud. She had helped the human, and now her father was helping the human too. Maybe that was what adults did. They saw problems and they fixed them together. The human is eating better now, one of her friends observed. Yes, Silrath agreed. She is learning to take care of herself. That is good. You cannot help others if you do not help yourself first. It was wisdom beyond her years, but children sometimes see truth more clearly than adults. They do not yet know enough to lie to themselves about what matters. Bora emerged from the chamber feeling lighter than she had in days. The negotiations were back on track. Better than that, they were building towards something real. Not just a treaty, but genuine understanding. Deho fell into step beside her. Success? Progress. Real progress? Good. Then maybe you will finally relax? Maybe, Bora smiled. After we finish the resource sharing agreements, and the cultural exchange protocols, and the military cooperation framework. 2 weeks passed. The negotiations transformed from tense diplomatic exchanges into genuine collaborative work. Bora kept her promise. 3 meals a day, 8 hours of sleep most nights. It helped that the Velketh delegation now invited the humans to shared meals regularly. Refusing would have been offensive, and Bora was learning that some diplomatic work happened over food, rather than at conference tables. Ralcor proved to be a thoughtful negotiator once his initial fears eased. He pushed back on terms that did not serve his people, but he listened to counter-arguments with genuine consideration. Cusshead was brilliant with details, catching problems before they became conflicts. The work was still hard, but it felt productive in a way the first week had not. Silrath and her friends became unofficial ambassadors for cross-species understanding. They followed the humans around when allowed, asking endless questions about Earth and human customs. Bora found herself explaining everything from why humans wore so many clothes to how human cubs learned to hunt in grocery stores instead of jungles. You do not teach your young to kill? Silrath asked one evening during dinner. We teach them to be careful and safe, Bora said. But no, humans do not need to hunt anymore, we farm. We raise animals for food or we grow plants. That seems less exciting. It is much less exciting, Deho agreed. But it means we do not go hungry when the hunting is poor. Do human cubs ever hunt? Just for practice? Bora thought about summer camps and fishing trips. Some do. It is not necessary, but some humans enjoy it. Connecting to older ways of living, Silrath tilted her head. My father says humans forget their nature sometimes. That you become soft because you do not need to be hard. Is that true? Sometimes, Bora admitted. When life is easy, we can forget how to handle difficult things. But humans also believe that not everything should be difficult. That maybe life can be good without constant struggle. What if struggle comes anyway? Then we remember how to be hard again. We adapt. That is humanity's real strength, I think. Not that we are naturally tough, but that we can become tough when we need to be. The cub considered this seriously. That is a good strength to have. 3 days later, Bora woke to the sound of shouting. She grabbed her clothes and ran outside to find Deho already at the compound's edge with several Velketh warriors. What happened? Fire, Deho said, pointing. In the distance, orange light flickered through the jungle canopy. Lightning strike started it during the night. It is spreading toward one of the outer settlements. Ralcor arrived at a run, already issuing orders to his people. Evacuate the settlement. Get everyone to the river canyon. The fire cannot cross there. How many people? Bora asked. 200, maybe more. Mostly elders and cubs. The hunters are out on a long-range expedition. Bora made a decision. We can help. Our ship has equipment for this. Ralcor started to refuse, then stopped. What kind of equipment? Fire retardant foam. Emergency shelters. Medical supplies. And Deho was a wildfire specialist before he joined diplomatic security? Is that true? Ralcor looked at Deho. 5 years with the Emergency Response Corps, Deho confirmed. I know fire, and I know how to fight it. Ralcor's ears flicked forward. Then help us, please. What followed was organized chaos. Bora coordinated with the human team, while Deho worked with Velketh warriors to plan a firebreak. Hyejin prepared medical supplies. Every human who could be spared joined the effort. The settlement was a cluster of buildings carved into massive trees. Families streamed out carrying what they could, heading toward the safety of the river canyon. Cubs cried. Elders moved slowly and fear scented the air. Bora found herself helping an elderly Velketh female carry her belongings. The woman moved with difficulty, her joints clearly painful. Let me carry that, Bora said, taking a heavy bag. You are very small, the elderly Velketh observed. Can you carry it? I am stronger than I look. Come on, we need to move faster. Behind them, the fire advanced. Smoke filled the air, making everything harder to see. Bora kept moving, helping whoever needed it. She lost track of time, focused only on getting people to safety. At some point, she realized she had skipped breakfast, then lunch. Then she stopped thinking about it entirely because there was too much work to do. Deho and the warriors managed to create a fire break using the ship's foam and controlled burns. It was not pretty, but it worked. The fire hit the break and spread sideways, away from the settlement. By late afternoon, the danger had passed. Bora sat on the ground near the river canyon, exhausted. Her clothes were filthy, her hands scratched from carrying rough bags and helping people through brush. She hurt in places she had forgotten existed. Silrath appeared with a canteen of water. You should drink. Thank you. Bora drank deeply. The water was cool and tasted like victory. You did not eat today, the cub observed. I know. I forgot again. But this was different, Silrath said. You forgot because you were helping people, not because you were working on papers. Bora smiled. That is true. Is there a difference? I think so. My father says there are good reasons to ignore hunger and bad reasons. Helping people is a good reason. Your father is wise. Ralcor approached, looking as exhausted as Bora felt. He sat down beside them heavily. No one died. Injuries are minor. The settlement can be rebuilt. I am glad. Your people worked hard today. Officer Deho knows his profession. Dr. Lee treated our wounded with great skill. And you? He looked at Bora. You carried supplies for 12 hours. I watched you help an elder who outweighs you by 50 pounds. Anyone would have done the same. No, Ralcor said. Not anyone. Some would have helped their own people only. Some would have watched and done nothing, thinking it was not their problem. But every human here worked as if these were their families at risk. Bora shrugged, too tired for false modesty. They needed help. We could provide it. The choice was simple. That is what I needed to see, Ralcor said quietly. Not your capacity to push beyond limits, but what you push beyond them for. Today, you chose to protect people who are not your own species. You chose to help without being asked. You chose exhaustion and pain for the benefit of strangers. He stood and offered Bora his hand. Come, we have prepared a feast for everyone. You should eat. I really should, Bora agreed, taking his hand. The feast was held in the river canyon with makeshift tables and whatever food could be gathered quickly. It was not fancy, but it was joyful. Survivors celebrated together, Velketh and humans sharing stories and food. Silrath sat near Bora, making sure she actually ate. The cub was taking her responsibility seriously. You are watching me, Bora said. Someone has to. You forget. I do forget. but I am trying to be better. Trying is good. My father says trying is how you become better. Kaz had joined them, sitting across the table. Ambassador, I have been thinking about your species. That sounds ominous. The elderly advisor smiled. Not ominous, interesting. We were afraid because humans can override instincts. But today showed us something important. You override them for the right reasons, to help, to protect, to save lives even when those lives are not human. Every species would do the same, Bora said. No, not every species. Some would help only their own. Some would demand payment first. Some would watch and do nothing unless it benefited them directly. Cashet leaned forward. But humans help first and worry about benefit later. That is rare. Valuable. It makes you strange but also trustworthy. Ralcor approached with an official-looking document. Ambassador Han Bora, I have discussed this with my advisors. We are ready to sign the treaty. Velketh will join the Galactic Council with humanity as our sponsor species. Bora stood quickly, her exhaustion forgotten. Chieftain, that is wonderful news. But I wish to add a provision if you agree. What provision? That humanity will help protect Velketh interest in the galaxy, and the Velketh will help protect human interest in return. Not just politically, but actively. If your people face danger, we will stand with you. If my people face danger, you will stand with us. It was more than a treaty. It was an alliance. A real one, based on mutual respect and proven action. I will need to confirm with my government, Bora said carefully, but I believe they will agree. This is more than we hoped for. It is more than I hoped for as well, Ralcor admitted. 3 weeks ago I feared humanity. Now I'm proud to call you allies. The signing ceremony took place the next morning. Both delegations gathered, along with survivors from the settlement fire. The document was signed in both human digital format and traditional Velketh clawmark. When it was done, Ralcor made a statement for the recording that would be sent to the Galactic Council. The Velketh joined the galactic community with humanity as our sponsor. We were afraid of humans because they can ignore survival instincts. We feared they were dangerous, unpredictable, possibly hostile. But we learned something important. Yes, humans are dangerous. They can push beyond normal limits. They can ignore hunger, fear, and pain when they choose. But they choose to use this ability to protect others, not to harm them. They chose to help my people yesterday without being asked, without knowing if they would benefit. That choice revealed their true nature. Humans are scary, but they are good. That is why we trust them. That is why we stand beside them. And that is why we welcome them as allies.